Hello, everyone, and welcome to our webinar, How Multilingual Communities Drive Customer Satisfaction and Cost Savings. I'm Katya Syromyatnikova, the VP of Customer Success at Intento, and my guest today is Matt Pyke, Senior Director of Strategic Partnerships at Verint. Matt, will you please quickly introduce yourself, tell us where you're joining from, what is it that you do at Verint, and how long you have been with it?
Sure. Thanks, Katya. So yeah, I'm Matt Pyke, and don't let the accent fool you. I'm actually based in California on the west coast of the US. I've been here for about 11 years, but I've been at Verint in total about 27 years. And part of what I do at Verint is manage the ISV and technology partnerships globally, which include connections to Intento and the various different capabilities that you bring to the Verint platform to create value extensions.
Thank you. Thank you for introducing yourself. While we are waiting for a couple more members to join, let me quickly go over some housekeeping items. So this webinar is being recorded. That means that whoever couldn't make it to the webinar will receive the email with the link to the recording within several days from now. Also, if you really enjoyed our webinar, found some insights, and now want to re-listen to it, that is also your opportunity. And let's give our guests a little bit more time to join before we start. How is the weather in California right now, Matt?
We're actually on the cusp of going into summer, so it's pleasant, but not too hot, not too cold, and I know this sounds a bit funny, but we probably won't see rain again until October, November time now. So it's kind of nice. A
Honestly, I
nice time
don't
to get this time of
sound
year.
sounds funny or exciting or a little bit scary. Here
You
in
get used
Prague,
to it.
we're listening to the rain for a while now, and we're waiting for the real summer to start. We're actually in more of a
Yeah. Yeah,
season
when the
for
real summer starts, you know it gets warm here. So yeah, but it's nice, it's pleasant. So yeah,
it.
can't complain too much.
Maybe we just want to be exactly on time by the calendar, and this way we still have 1 week till the summer. So,
Better than it normally is. Just 2 weeks of summer, and there it was. So yeah.
all right. Looking at the clock, we are already 2 minutes past the starting mark, so probably everyone who was planning to join are either already here with us or on their way rushing to us. So I think we can gradually start getting into our topic. So what we're going to talk about today is customer communities and community platforms, how they help businesses both in driving customer satisfaction and in saving some of the resources, most notably money, obviously. We'll also talk about how we can make these communities accessible and available to broader audiences through multilingual possibilities. And with that, I think that we are ready to go into some of the first questions. So before we dig deep into the cost savings and into the multilingual possibilities, let's start with the basics. So Matt, if I'm a business owner, why would I want to have a community?
Well, that is, yeah, that's usually the reason why we start. So there are lots of reasons to have a community. One is proactive outreach and around your brand and how you want the community in the world in your particular space to see your brand and what you can do with it. So whether that's messaging, whether it's engaging, or whatever it may be. That in itself helps create brand loyalty. So when you give somebody a place to come and talk about you and your business and the value that you offer and the products that you have and everything else, you get brand loyalty. You know, you've seen it in lots of major brands. You know, you buy something, you buy the t-shirt, you buy the hat, that kind of thing, right? So people want that type of connection to large brands. In some industries, it works better than others, clearly, but understanding that brand, keeping loyalty with people, becoming experts in those fields, you need a place for those people to go and connect with I'm saying other fans, other people that are loyal to the brand or have knowledge about what you do and how you work. So it's it's a place to gather those individuals together, talk about similar things, and generally give everybody a place to feel welcome, warm, and cozy when they're wanting to talk about what you want to talk about. Now, and the other part of that is in controlling your brand is you can take feedback from people that use your products every day. So not just a question answer scenario, but actually be engaged in live conversations if you want to be and get real feedback back and forth that you can infer and deliver and drive more engagement and ideally more brand awareness and more fans to what you're actually trying to achieve. I mean, that's the holistic view of why you would get a community, and there's a lot more benefits around it, which we'll get into. But generally, it's about creating that community to have people engage with your brand provide that insight that you may or may not see on a daily basis.
So, based on what you're hearing, we would be very happy to obviously have a lot of brand fans, our loyal customers and champions and the community. But then you mentioned that it's also an important part of the feedback loop, which means if somebody is not 100% happy with our product, that might still be a person who we would welcome at the community because that's our chance to actually both change their mind and change our product if necessary.
Exactly, yeah. I mean, it's a way of understanding how people are actually using your product for real. You know, a lot of the time I've been a product manager in the past, and you build a product feature thinking it's going to be the best thing in the world, and then you roll it out, and you realize very quickly that people don't use it the way you thought you were going to use it, or they don't click on it or engage with it the way you want it to engage with it. And the best way to get that type of feedback and that understanding is to have a conversation. And a good way to have a conversation is in a community forum is one of the main aspects that people look for. But communities can do so much more than that, right? Not only can you connect individuals globally around the world that are using your product and your features, you can learn from those conversations. You can be an observer. You can interject. Um, you can get an understanding of, well, we produced this feature, it kind of hit the mark, but it wasn't quite right. So from a product perspective, it's always valuable. Or it could be from well, we hit this feature and now we're seeing X number of sales come through and it's like fantastic. And so your sales guys get involved and whoever that may be. Or it could be the conversation devolves into something that requires some support and they're not asking for support specifically, but hey, maybe you can interject because you can see that that is something that if you solve it there and then, it's going to stop a lot more interactions into the contact center. So it's kind of those multifaceted approaches into information that you don't normally get is why you go for a community to be able to interact with those. I'm going to say more comfortable conversations is a way that I like to term. So yeah.
Yes, with me working primarily with customer success, I know how difficult it can be from time to time to get our customers to actually dedicate their time to us. So if you have
Yep.
some space which people are happy to come to proactively and share their feedback without us chasing them and start trying to set up an interview with a product manager or a focus group, that's treasure cove. That's true. And
Exactly.
you have also touched upon the topic of helping the customer with their problems or potential technical issues. And I know that quite a lot of companies, especially the big enterprises, but smaller companies as well, consider community one of their primary support channels. Not only because in some cases you can get the users to help themselves, but also
Yep.
because if you answer any question that they have publicly, it's already there. It's hopefully somewhere on the top of the community or in a special section of the community, which means that your ticket deflection goes through the roof because by helping one person, you're helping so many more people as well.
Yeah,
So
that's exactly it.
that's quite a lot of benefits. And you did mention, Matt, that it works especially well if you have a strong brand, if you have loyal fans of your brand as well. Does that mean that if I am a smaller company or maybe I am in some very specific industry, so I'm not Apple or Coca-Cola, that I should not have a community, or is it still
Not at
valuable
all.
for the
I
companies
think
with
anybody can benefit from the community. I mean, controlling your brand is one thing, building a brand is another, and communities help you build that brand. And again, most people think of communities, they think of the multifaceted interactions, people talking and everything like that. But there are lots of different things you can do with community. You could publish your documentation there so everybody knows to go there, but then can have a conversation around your documentation or your support flow in terms of self-service, creating a ticket, whatever it may be. And you touched on if you're in a conversation and somebody has an answer, marking those answers as a suggested answer to be verified by the company shows that the company is listening, whether that's big or small. So you could be a big brand that has a loyal following and you want to give them a place to go, or you could be a smaller brand wanting to build a following, so you give them a place to go, right? And if you put everything that they need in that one place or branch off into the different options, then that's why you have a community. And there's no reason any size company shouldn't have somewhere like
That sounds almost too good to be true. So tell me, Matt, what's the
that.
other side? If I decide to start a community, let's imagine I'm a medium-sized brand, I'm recognizable probably somewhere where people already know me, but then there is so many more people who I would like to learn about my brand. So I decide to start the community. What are the
Yep.
things that I need to keep in mind? What are some of the risks I need to be conscious of? And hopefully, how can I overcome these risks?
So yeah, there's lots of tools involved around community. The first kind of thing that you're going to want is people within your company, your brand, to be able to engage in that community effectively. People that know your products, people that know your messaging, people that understand where and how you want to engage with that. They become your moderators essentially for the community content and what goes on. And there will always be those, it doesn't matter what you do with self-service or public stuff, there'll always be those bad actors that will try and get in and talk about things, which is why community products, especially Verint community products, have rules that allow you to filter out the content before it becomes published, allowing you to help you control that brand so that if somebody's trying to talk about a competitor, you can be flagged immediately and get in there because maybe you want to answer that rather than having somebody else in the community do it. So to be aware of things is you need a group of moderators that you trust to understand your company to go in and engage, but that has to be distributed around the company and not a focused area per se. It's more of an addition into what you do. So it could be somebody that's in product that answers the producty questions, somebody in engineering does the engineering questions if you are in software, obviously, or mechanical engineering, whatever it may be. But you need specialists in the areas that you want to engage in that community so that the people that you're building that brand for trust and come back to you again and again and again. And then as you go through that, you'll identify individuals in your community that you might badge through gamification so you can elevate their status in the community and show that they are a trusted community member and that they can help you answer those questions, and that then builds out as you go. But it starts with the experts and the trust, but those moderators will always be there. And then you'll start creating, different rules and capabilities that you do it. Now, on top of all of that, just to be aware, as I said, bad actors are there. Spam engines exist. You've had it in email for years. Community is the same, but we have tools that you can plug in to allow us to mitigate those things and stop that type of interaction, which is why communities, when you see them and join them, are not flooded with these random messages from various different engines because we have safeguards for those types of things. So
I see. So to summarize, we need some sort of framework, some sort of guardrails to make sure it's not getting out of control. But at the same time, we want to empower the members of community to also help us. And we do this through the same way as we are using the community to increase our brand visibility and our brand loyalty. Probably some people, some experts who come to the community can leverage this as well to increase the strength of their personal brand. And we can help with this by giving these badges, by for highlighting, maybe even giving them some extra rights.
yeah.
Is it a typical situation where somebody who is not a company employee, but a really well-known contributor to the community might get even some admin rights or moderator rights. Is there ever a situation where somebody who is not a part of your company becomes a moderator in your community?
It's entirely possible if you trust them. It can be permissioned that way. Generally, that's not something we would do. But yeah, I mean, it's entirely possible because you could do anything with software if it's configured the right way, right? But in the use case world, you'll give them the badges, you'll elevate their status, and you'll let them suggest an answer, for example. So they won't be full-on moderators, but they might get permission to suggest an answer. But then many people can, but maybe they're the ones that verify it, right? I mean, you could give them a set of permissions to help verify the answers if they are that expert in what you're doing.
Mhm, mhm.
Maybe
So
they
you
become an
have sort
expert
of
in an
very
older product
flexible
that you don't do
permissions.
anymore, it's that kind of stuff. So yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So as long as you can be flexible with permissions, as long as you keep in mind, obviously, security configurations, you don't really want to have someone who is not a part of your company, no matter how
Right.
loyal they are, how much you like them, have access to your production.
Exactly, exactly. And it may not be something you do on day one, right? It could take years before you get to that point. But a
Absolutely.
community is a place to foster bi-directional communication, not to be draconian in what you want to do. But at the same time, you still want to be able to control some of the messaging that goes into that.
Oh, absolutely.
So you get
Absolutely.
all those tools.
So it's a fine balance between you want it to thrive, you want it to generate as much content as possible, but you still want to control the narration a little bit, right?
Yes, exactly those things. Yeah.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. So let's imagine that me, the aspiring young business person who is starting up their own community, I have my community, I have my first users post something there, I set up all the workflows, the moderation flows, so I know how it all goes. How do I know I'm doing a good job with my community? What metrics do I look at? How do I know that it's working?
Well, the first one's always going to be engagement, right? So if you're posting stuff and nobody's engaging, are you posting the right content? Are people actually registered? Are you getting the message out that you actually have this place to actually engage? Um, we do the same thing, at Verint. We encourage engagement in the right places, and we encourage our experts to engage more readily. And then as that goes through, as the engagement starts to build, your experts start to take more of a backseat and monitor and moderate versus engage proactively, unless they really need to do so, obviously. And you watch that community build. So first is, am I getting any responses? Am I getting any input? Is anybody posting anything proactively themselves, or are we having to push content all the time? And so it's just a delivery mechanism. So you want to turn it from a delivery mechanism into a bi-directional engagement mechanism. So it's, measure how many people are actually interacting, measure how many comments you're getting made, updates, suggestions, and so on. But again, it doesn't happen overnight, right? If you're new to community, you have to build that mindset up with your base, and even with the internal folks, you have to build that mindset. And then once that mindset is in place, it becomes a lot easier to start having conversations with people and a more natural. And then as that happens, and you do push more content. So let's say you are putting documentation out there. Are you making sure that that documentation can be commented on? It could be just be a push and done, and you're just counting the clicks on the documentation. Okay, well, I'm putting it out there. My community is being engaged because people are clicking on it, but they're not commenting on it or suggesting feedback because I didn't turn that on. Maybe that's on purpose, right? So different metrics to different measures depending on what you're trying to get out of it. But generally speaking, from a community perspective, you want to measure the engagement and how your engagement rate is higher than your engagement rate as a company, because you should have more people there from external sources. So that would be
Obviously,
the
because that's what the customers are probably looking for if they're coming to community.
exactly. So that's kind of the first measures, and then as you start to build it out, you can start measuring escalations and so on. So if your community is one of the places to escalate into a help support system, contact center, whatever it may be, are you seeing less escalations in because you are now having those customers self-serve and engage together? So they're actually answering your support questions in the community as opposed to pushing them into your support center to answer them, right? So So your support agents are now, maybe they now start engaging in the community because that is where the customers are engaged. Or maybe they're just using that to help answer other customers. And so your AHT rates in your contact center go down because they're pushing more engagement back to your community. And it's kind of this kind of circular thing of everything starts to mesh together. But you can measure average handle time in the contact center, escalation, other escalation drops, or calls going up because the more complicated answers are coming into the contact center. So they're not as quick anymore, but they're a lot more complicated to solve because you can't solve them in the community and so on. So you keep an eye on for things like that, and you measure the different aspects of each type of interaction, basically.
And this is what actually does bring us to the cost saving part of the exercise, because obviously, if you can have just, let's say, one support representative answer several questions on community,
Mhm.
if we calculate it in ticket deflection, if we can find a formula to calculate it, it basically means that we have saved so many
Yeah.
hours of the work of the support person. And then these hours that we have freed up, we can probably redirect into generating more community content, generating more engagement, increasing brand loyalty. So that's almost like a virtuous circle. That's great to hear. When I think about engagement with the community, I cannot help but think about one other way in which you can increase engagement apart from posting the information that is interesting to your customers. And this is reaching a broader audience
Mhm.
through making sure that your community actually speaks more languages than just English, or whichever language would be your primary language for the community. Have you noticed any trends like this with your customers who are establishing the community using Verint? Do they usually try to make it multilingual? Do they go global with their communities? How do they do that?
Yeah, I mean it's again good question. So it does depend on the brand and the deployment and everything else. But what you find is um, our customers of community, they will want a central community ideally and make that available globally because the internet is global. It's not cut down into this tiny little space. But um, yeah, I mean the multilingual aspect is the challenge, which is why we engaged with Intento in the first place, right? So we could help overcome this challenge because we have customers that do this. But yeah, I mean you can deploy a community and you can have it global, and people from all over the world will be able to connect into it. Primarily, we do that in English because that's the most common, but not everybody speaks English, right? So you have to figure out ways to be able to service those requests. And some customers will employ people in the countries to be native speakers, and they might create different subsections of their community in different languages. But it's more effective if you can plug in a tool that allows you to have those conversations in those different languages relatively quickly. And that comes from, do I have one community that services a global enterprise, or do I have lots of communities deployed, or do I have one community with different facets? And each one of those is absolutely possible. It just depends on what's driving you to be able to do that. Is it compliance reason you have to have it in the other country? And then if I do that, do I have to then have a moderator in that language? Do I have to have content experts in that language? Do I have to have all of the other things because of whatever's driving it? Is it a regional need because you do have experts in those regions and that's where it has to be, or is it just because companies are used to doing it and so they just assume that's what you have to do, right? So, but we give options for everybody to do everything. So yeah,
I
try
see.
not
I
get
actually do
too.
have an example for you. One of our customers, who I believe is your customer as well. So that's our joint success story, Matt.
Good.
The company called Insights is a leading learning and development company. They provide a community as a part of their program where practitioners of their Insights Discovery program can connect and can share the learning materials, can share some important documents, and also obviously can share their insights, their best practices. And initially, the challenge was that Insights is present in a lot of markets, and they have practitioners all over the world. However, with the with trying to access community, with trying to access all the important materials, all the insights, some of their practitioners were limited by not speaking English fluently or not being comfortable speaking English. And that meant that, first of all, it was just more difficult for them to talk to other practitioners. And secondly, not every document, not every PDF, not every learning materials would be presented in all languages in which their practitioners are speaking. And as a result, traditionally, the way you would do it, you would probably go to some language service provider or you would hire an in-house translator. The challenge with community is that it's a living, breathing thing. It's constantly generating content. You
Yep.
cannot possibly have a fast enough translator and enough translators in general to translate each and every new contribution to the community that appears. So that's where Intento came in with the machine translation, with taking into account the fact that the insights are very, very cautious about what language they use. They have some very specific terminology that they need to apply. They want it to be universal, obviously, across all their practitioners. Uh, that's not an easy thing to do with machine translation. With Intento, we actually were able to provide a very consistent, high quality automated translation across 11 different languages in some of the key markets. And this is all done on the fly. So once the some content is generated, once somebody is reading this part of the content, they are already reading it in their own language. If they want to download some learning materials, some PDF, they have an option to choose and translate it into their own language. They will download it already pre-translated into their own language. And you know how much increase in engagement they have seen out of making their community multilingual? 59%. Is
I
it an
say I
easy
don't know,
number
but
to
I
achieve
am hoping you're
59?
going to tell me.
Yeah.
59%.
Yeah. Is that an
When-
easy number to achieve in community? Can you easily increase your engagement by more than 50%?
How can we easily do it? When multilingual is involved, apparently we can. So it's you just proven it by talking about the use case. But
Yeah, fair
to
enough.
your point, yeah,
For me,
it's
that does sound like an extremely high number because usually when I think about, okay, how can I gradually grow my engagement, I'm honestly thinking in single digits in one go. No, not in 50, over 50%. So we do see some very cool use cases and some very cool applications for making communities multilingual. This can also be the case not only when you have a lot of practitioners who are generating the content, but also, for example, with our other joint customer, Agilent, who are one of the leading life sciences appliances manufacturers. They actually use their community mainly as the source to provide support to their service engineers. So most of the content is actually generated in English. And the question here is not so much how do we connect all the people who speak different languages, but this is more about how to make sure that all the content that we're producing is accessible to our service engineers all over the world. And guess what? They're doing it at Verint with Intento. And that is, again, something that would not be possible to do in any other way, simply because of how much content is being generated. I think they're getting something like 1,700 translation requests per day. So this is not nearly something that could be done with just using translation
not at
service
all.
like this.
Not at
So
all. It's not static content. That's the key, right? So anything you
yeah,
type into the forums, any conversations that you have, all translated into the language that you want to view it in, and whether that's documentation, downloads, and whatever. And to your point, that is where a global community servicing localized users becomes invaluable to a business because you've saved on all those traditional deployment costs. You've saved on all of those people that you need in those different locales to be able to manage and run your community. And it doesn't matter if somebody in one of those locales is engaging with your community natively or in English, they can, because everything is being translated on the fly through the Intento plugin. So it's opened up a whole new world for customers that want to do all of the things that community offer: brand, feedback, engagement, escalation, de-escalation, deflection, any of the other things we want to talk about of where a community can play a part in the business. And Intento helps, and you've just proved that with the two customer use cases there. It's fantastic.
One more thing I'm thinking about is if you're going global, what you want to keep in mind is how do you provide proper moderation? Because if you're truly global, you're probably covering many time zones at the same time. You probably also want the moderator to be able to speak the language that they're moderating, otherwise, it might make the task a little bit difficult. So, uh,
Maybe.
how would you usually work with this? If I have a global company with many locations and with many customers.
There's a couple of ways to do it. Yeah, you may end up having moderators in each locale, and maybe ones that do speak the local language, to be able to moderate the content. But again, to your point with the Intento plugin, my moderators could all speak one language, and they could all just run time zone shifts to cover the global event, which we do have some customers that do. And they will just work in the same country, but utilize the language translation modules to be able to service those requests from different systems. So remember, again, to your point, the speed of translation, even in moderation and setting up the rules and everything else, means that we can keep an eye on the content in one location and do it. However, saying that, there may be a need where you do want a local speaker, and you can either employ locally in the country where that speaker lives, or you could just have somebody that does multilingual if you want to. That's a thing still. So people still speak multiple languages, so we get there eventually, and you could do it that way. But given the raft of languages there are around the world, and if you are going to be in every country because your community is global in true sense of the word, you're going to need some kind of tool to be able to help you manage this, and that's where the Intento plugin comes in for Verint.
That sounds lovely because it means that I can actually choose between whether I need someone on the ground, where I need someone who is immersed in the culture, so to
Yep,
say, or whether I just need someone who can cover a specific time zone, and that would be sufficient for me because I can make them
exactly.
well.
But it has to be a choice because it depends on the business that you're in, right? So sometimes it is a cultural thing, and you need to make sure there's somebody local versus, a global brand that doesn't need to be so aware of the cultural impact of what they're up to. So.
Would that also be true for the case where you create a separate community as a standalone thing for a specific region or for a specific country? Are there any cases?
It can be. I mean, again, even if you create it for a specific country, things can be found on the internet and engaged with. And, you know, being an English native speaker, I'll find things in different countries all the time to engage with. And sometimes those websites have a button that says translate to English, or I might rely on the browser plugin. But if I'm doing dynamic content like a community, I'm going to need a real-time plugin so I can see what's being said, because I'll give you an example. My daughter's Mini Cooper was built in Holland, and it was shipped to the US and so on. So occasionally I have to go to a Dutch website to look at the parts and pieces for that particular car because that's where it was built. And believe it or not, I don't speak Dutch. So I have to rely on plugins to be able to engage with the expert, so I can understand what parts to order and so on. It's an extreme example because I can sometimes get the parts here, but it costs me more money if I do it in English than it does if I go straight to the source. So
And
um,
here is another cost-saving opportunity right
it's
here.
another cost-saving opportunity, specifically for me, of course. But yeah, I mean, from a business perspective, um, the more you can break down barriers, language or otherwise, the better your engagement is going to be, and the more likely you are to retain and gain more customers. That's what it comes down to. So.
Yeah, that's simple as that. And if we're thinking about such things as cultural adaptation, even that nowadays, obviously with the modern technology, does not necessarily always need an expert who is located specifically in this location, because now we have the AI
Yep.
and you know how to use it right. If you have the right tools, spoiler alert, Intento is one of the right tools that can help you use the AI, right? Some of the things you can do as you're translating, you can also automatically do the cultural adaptation. You can automatically choose the right level of formality. You can imagine that if you are interacting with your users in Germany, you will probably need a very different level of formality than if you're
Yep.
interacting with users in Japan, right? And you mentioned local regulations. Even some of those can now also be met with using AI. So, for example, you know that here on our side of the pond in the European Union, the EU Accessibility Act is coming into power. I think less than a week from now. It's starting from June 2025, so we're almost there, which makes every company officially as a company we now need to make sure that our content is written in simple enough words that people can actually understand what we're writing. It's lovely that it's put in the law, but it also means that obviously a lot of companies need to adapt whichever content they put in front of the customers to and to meet this regulation. And this is something that can also be covered by an AI agent that's trained specifically on accessibility regulation or rules. So, Matt, if we step away from translation for a minute and think about AI in a broader sense of global customer engagement, how else can we leverage AI in community or maybe in some other touch points that Verint provides for the customer journey?
Yeah, there's lots to talk about there. So so let's start with the community to start with. So the community being an extensible platform that we have allows us to plug in lots of different technologies. So whether you want to plug in an AI agent to engage in your community, perfectly fine to do that, no problem at all. If you've invested in one of the LLM vendors and so on, we
So
can
you're
help you.
saying that AI can actually talk to the community users instead of me?
Yeah, why
Oh,
not?
that
Uh,
sounds pretty
yeah,
cool.
we could do that if we needed to, because we can extend and connect up to those things. Now we don't have that natively, but you can wire those things in, right? It's not beyond the realms of possibility because we have the capabilities to do that. Equally, we do actually wire AI technology into our intelligent virtual assistant to help um, customers if they want to. So we can deploy another Verint product into another Verint product. So we could blend our IVA, land it onto our community, and have it guide you through the different content sources that we have and help you engage with the community if you need to. So think of it as a hand-holding, intelligent assistant for you in the community when you're looking to engage. So you're going to type a question. So you type it into the virtual assistant and see if there is a forum post or an answer that already exists without having to create a new one, and or get it to help you write your response. Because again, that can be connected to LLMs of your choosing, or if you want to use one of our own. You could connect our community to our knowledge management solution. So think of knowledge management as a structured set of answers that already exist that you can then blend into community so that when people are asking questions, you can say, here's the actual answer from the product. Do you want to have a conversation about it? And well, you could blend that into the IVA and have it deliver it proactively or have another AI technology kind of build it out. That being said, there are many other AI technologies that you could wire in. Intento, we've already talked about. There could be other writing tools that you've got or you use that you want to put into the community for customer use or even just for agent use. I mean, let's think about your moderators and your agents utilizing AI tools that are provided by third parties to help you formulate your forum replies, get it to a compliance or regulatory perspective. You can use those tools. We'll just figure out with you how to connect them in. But yeah, if you want to use an AI to help answer questions, we can. But again, you may still want somebody to moderate and understand it, and you might want to have it answer and then initially go through a rule before it's published, or just trust it and let it do its thing, but one
So
step
what
at
it
a time.
sounds like is basically with the usage of AI, what I have the less need for is for somebody who just knows how to write the answers on community, how to write. And instead, I can invest this time and effort into finding the real subject matter experts who can contribute to community. But
Mhm.
I do not have to worry as much about these subject matter experts not necessarily being the experts in public writing or public
Right.
speaking.
I mean, if
It's
your AI tool is a specifically designed public writing, in compliance, regulatory, the subject matter experts could dump their knowledge into there, let it formulate and write it. They could review it and then press the publish button, and off you go. We can wire those things up. We don't supply the public writing part, but we can, if you've got one, we can help you wire it in. So yeah.
I see. This actually makes a lot of things so much easier because earlier when you mentioned that you can just have a support agent, for example, answer the questions on community, what I,
Mhm.
even in my customer service history, have always seen as one of the obstacles, or at least something that doesn't allow to really scale this approach, is that the way you would train your customer support agents to reply to customers in private do not necessarily easily translate into how it should be
Yeah.
in public.
I've experienced that myself. I understand. So yeah, they're not always customer facing, and so having them run it through a tool that can format that up and make it more customer
Absolutely. And you
is
can
is
probably even train this tool to have the answers be more, I don't want to say more generic, but you can find the way how do you make sure that this answer is helpful to as many people as possible, right?
yep,
Without.
yep. How do you make sure that you're hitting everybody as opposed to just some people? Yeah, which
Mhm.
makes perfect sense.
That sounds like the future is now, which is great to hear. Any other interesting news or insights from the technology world, from the Verint side, Matt, before we go into our Q&A?
So I mean, with community again, it's make sure you've got you know why you want one and everything else. But we do all sorts of things for the contact center beyond community where we can wire things up to make lives a bit easier. If anybody follows there at any point, check out our Copilot. It's to your point about helping formulate those answers and getting information to it. Go to Verint's website, check out our Copilot bots, check out our specialized bots for specific areas, and think about how we can help that entire engagement from front to back and back to front and everywhere in between. So there's too many things to talk about, Katya, before we get to Q&A, but the Copilot was probably the one that I really wanted to call out just because it makes use of many specialized bots that we have, and we have a lot. So yeah.
It looks like both of us are working towards the same direction, which is making the customer journey as easy and as consistent across all the different point of contacts, all the different touch points
Yeah.
as possible. We do it from the language perspective, making sure that your language experience is consistent. You do it from the general contact center, knowledge-based community, you name it, customer journey perspective. But in the end,
Yep.
what we have is hopefully a happy customer.
That
And
that is there. Happy customer, reduced interaction touch points, and ideally a happy company that represents the customer so that everybody wins. So yeah.
lovely. That sounds like a great closing to our interview part, but we're not done with questions yet, Matt. I have more for you. The difference is they're not coming from me. We have several questions in our Ask box. And for our dear viewers, if you also would like to ask Matt or possibly me a question about communities, about multilingual experience, you have the Q&A button in the bottom of your screen right now. So you can press it and you can send us an answer and we will answer them live in real time. So, Matt, question number one that I have for you from our audience. Can internal employee communities benefit from being multilingual as well? So I assume we're talking about if you are a big enough company, you might want to have your own community internally, and you might have employees from many different many different locations, many
Mhm.
different locales actually interacting with each other. So have you seen companies successfully using multilingual capabilities in their employee communities?
So we have. I mean, we primarily focus on the customer, the external facing communities. That's kind of where we hit home runs all the time. But we do have many customers that have both external communities and internal communities, and we even have some customers that are just purely internal. Customers that have the, I mean, say you mentioned size of company. We have a customer that has an internal community for 30,000 employees globally. And again, it's primarily in English, but they do have it in lots of different countries. So they do have to take that into account. But it's designed so that employees can talk to each other, ask questions, engage, and understand actually what they're looking for. So yes, we do have those types of things, and we help deploy them as much as we can, but it's very much on a case by case basis, how we can help, what the use cases are, what we're trying to achieve. Isn't necessarily brand loyalty at that point. It's more about knowledge sharing, information, and sometimes it could just equally as just pushing out compliance information to the relevant employees so they know what to do. So, but yes, we do it. We've been very successful at it, and we have several companies that do it, but it's not necessarily our sweet spot, but we do go there.
I see. That sounds amazing. I know that in Intento, we also have a number of customers who are using Intento multilingual capabilities mainly for making sure that employees all over the world within one company understand each other. So it's not just about reaching your customer where they're at, it's also making sure that your employees in your company are all speaking the same language, even if they're not speaking the same language, so that they all feel like they're speaking the same language.
Yeah.
Okay. We had one more question that got answered by our support team over here. So Isabel was asking about the link to the new regulation, and we have provided it on the European Commission website. So if you
Okay.
are also interested in this government act, please look into our Q&A box and you will see the answer there. And then we also have one more question. I think it's for you, Matt, and it's like a real use case. So one of our
Okay.
viewers is saying that they currently manage two separate communities. They have a global community, but also they have a local community for some specific country. They don't say which one it is. So
Okay.
they're not using Intento because then that
That's
would
fine.
not be a problem. But
Yeah, they're not using Intento yet. Let's go for
yeah,
that.
yeah. They're asking if they can merge these two communities and create a single multilingual community. I don't know if it's more about the technical capabilities. So, for example, with Verint, if I used to have two communities and then I realized I want to merge them, can I do that? But also, is it a good practice? Is it even recommended now that possibly
Yeah, I
it
mean, it's going to depend on the use cases and what we need to do. I mean, we can pull you into one community and get it all going as one global one. And with Intento, the multilingual part's not going to be a problem, right? So that aside, take it as it's going to be a project. We're gonna take your regional and put it into your global. Yeah, we can do that. It's a project that needs defining, and there'll probably be services involved to do that kind of stuff so that we can make sure we get everything right and so on. Parking that aside from a technical perspective, then it becomes down to why did you have a regional one and a global one at one point? Probably various different business reasons. Maybe there's different reasons for that, but plugging in the Intento option for Verint Community means it's not going to be a language barrier that you have to overcome. There could be other things, but it's not going to be a language barrier. But you could set it up that way, and it could be that it's just a different user set. I mean, we have communities where we have one launch point, but it looks like two communities just because we're permissioning the users to see one set of content versus permissioning users to see another, depending on how those users are registered and what they're designed to see based on how the business is working, because the business has two branches. Perfectly
Mhm.
valid use case, and we can do that kind of stuff. So you could do it. It just depends on why you ended up with two communities in the first place. But if you want to consolidate, maybe it's a cost thing, maybe it's just because it's easier to manage, maybe it's you just want all the moderators in one place. Whatever it may be, we can help you out, and we can certainly work through it. Not a problem at
Or
all.
it could also be the historical reasons that's way
Yeah,
before
could be.
machine translation was at the level where you could translate things on the fly. it was easier for you to keep one community separate because people in a certain country wanted to speak their own language. But obviously, that comes at a cost of only accessing part of the content and part of all the great ideas that all the other users on the other end of the world could provide to you. So now that is not a problem. Now we can definitely do that. And it looks like we do not have any other questions in the ask box right now. So it looks, Matt, that we are perfectly on time. We might give our
Great.
audience 10 minutes back if they were planning for the full hour. But honestly, in these 50 minutes, I feel like you have shared so many ideas with me. I feel like I'm ready to go and start my own community tomorrow already. And
Great.
obviously, leverage Intento to make it as multilingual as possible. And thank you so much for sharing your expertise. As a reminder for everyone who is maybe joined us a little bit later, maybe just want to re-listen to some of the pearls of wisdom more attentively, we will be sending out the recording of this webinar in several days' time. And in the meantime, I wish you, Matt, and everyone who has joined us today a very, very nice day, rest of the day if you're in Europe, the whole day still in front of you if you're in California like Matt. And with that, have a great day, everyone. Goodbye.